Just let me know if that is live. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of FPL BlackBox. It has been a while since I've done one of these. It's been about, 3 game weeks, Luke? Has it been since we were last on?
Right, is that how many have been crammed in?
Feels like
right.
it.
It does, doesn't it? They've been coming thick and fast. So, yeah, maybe game week 32? Is that the one we did? 33, 34?
I think, maybe 2. I mean, I haven't done one since the free hit. I haven't done one since last week, and then we're kind of halfway through this game week, so we'll call it 2.5. So here we are. As always, Luke's on a green arrow, I'm on a red arrow. You know, start as we left off. You're just hovering outside the top 50k, Luke. Having a good season. Now you've turned to the dark side.
Top 50k? I'm on 34k. You've done me a disservice.
Oh yeah, I haven't even updated the ranks then. There you go.
Yeah,
34k.
Yeah, no, doing okay. But obviously, we've got the rest of this game week to go, and I think my team, like probably most listening, is incredibly similar. However, I don't have Bruno, and I've got Grealish, so I'm kind of nervous as to whether he's going to play tonight. He's basically my only difference from like the general template, which doesn't. I mean, I didn't expect him to outscore Bruno going into it, but already I think the difference is 10 points. Did he get 11 points, Bruno? 11, 12,
he got the 3 bonus.
So I'm already 10 behind, and then Bruno's definitely starting, isn't he? And he's playing very well, obviously. And then Grealish is, I kind of need to rely on him, first of all, to even take to the pitch, and then second of all, to do anything, which seems quite slim at the moment.
Normally, when a highly owned player like Bruno scores, I go, "Oh no, that's rubbish." But when he scored, I kind of thought, "Yeah, fair enough." he's been so bad for owners, hasn't he, over the last 5 game weeks, just not scoring points, creating loads of chances, not getting anything. So fair play. You know, you needed him for the double. If you got him, I don't really begrudge you the points for a change.
Indeed, and I held him throughout that entire period. I only actually sold him just before, because I was of the opinion he's either going to be out or he's going to start. I didn't think there was any chance in hell for a sub, so it just made sense for my team to get it where I wanted. I didn't have Rashford, so I just did Bruno to Rashford, and I felt like I needed him, so that's what I did. In hindsight, I probably should have done Grealish to Rashford instead and kept Bruno, but is what it is.
Yeah, it's easy to say. Yeah. Hi to everyone in the chat. We've got 220 people joining us so far. It is 6:36 on Wednesday, so we are going to plough through this and hopefully finish in time for the football action tonight. Obviously got City playing and Liverpool playing. Bloody Jota and his bad back. I think this is a geriatric since I brought him into my team. Got a bit jammy with his 4 points, so he could easily have finished with -2 or something. So yeah, I'll kind of take it. But yeah, we got a lot to talk about because, as we will show, there are not many game weeks left, and I'm sure lots of us have got lofty targets. Myself trying to break into the top 100k. I'm guessing you're hoping for a late surge into the top 10k, right? If you're 34, around about 34,000.
I guess so. It's not really that important to me, but because I was there earlier in the season and it's basically been a grind to get back there, it'll be nice to kind of finish around the same. It was just a really fun game week, wasn't it, overall? I don't know about FPL. Some things were a bit harsh, I think, especially like Brighton obviously rocking up and winning 6-0 versus Wolves and barely any of our players are starting and we're getting like 1-pointers. It's just, every game Brighton look like they can do this to a team, and then the one time they do it is the time we don't have our players in the lineup, which is annoying. But yeah, I think I went goal crazy predictions wise, and there's been a lot of goals recently. There are some teams on fire, but I think there's more importantly some teams whose defenses are just absolute shambles at the moment. Spurs and Chelsea spring to mind straight away, but yeah, it's kind of chaos, I guess. And I think there's been some research done that in terms of on the beach stuff, I don't know whether we can say that yet for some teams, and even if it is a thing, but I did see that, and I'm not saying those games particularly were, but in the upcoming games where both teams are apparently on the beach, the goal levels go up in general more than any other combination, as in one's on the beach, one's not, or whatever. So yeah, might see even more goals continue into the last few game weeks, which will be interesting because, well, I think we talk about it every week. Getting a defender clean sheet is nigh on impossible. So yeah, just don't bother there, I think, and just start getting the attackers you want.
Yep. Well, I had to go Brighton on the thumbnail for this one, given that demolition against Wolves. I was not expecting, especially not when I saw the team sheet as well. There's a lot of options now at Brighton to consider. We already had quite a few, and now sort of Enciso's come into the picture. Even Welbeck's come into it as well. So we'll talk about the Brighton assets because they've obviously got the doubles coming up. Before we do that, Luke, it's your favourite sponsor, which in no way makes you feel uncomfortable. I did notice, before we get into the Manscaped adverts, you've had a shave.
Oh, you're paying that much attention?
I am.
Yeah. Can you use this for your face? I don't know, but if you can, then obviously I would have done that. Obviously,
yeah, absolutely. Well, you can. I would recommend buying 2. One for the nether regions, and one for your face. Our sponsor for this week's episode is Manscaped. As you can see on the screen, Manscaped do lots of male grooming products. You do your trimmer. You've got your ear and nose hair trimmer, which I am growing more of, which is very depressing. You've got your ball deodorant, as you like me to say. Got your ball sort of moisturizer stuff as well. You get 20% off with the code BlackBox. And you're helping to support a great sponsor for us this season. All the sponsors are great, but as we've said many times, getting the Manscaped sponsor was always Mark and I's kind of dream. So they are a great company. They do some great products, and if you're in need of male grooming, there's no one else to turn to. So check them out, manscaped.com, and use our code for 20% off everything. And if you are using them, let us know in the comments what you think. There you go.
Love that.
Yeah. Right. Let's chat. Well, let's chat quickly about the game week so far. I mean, I could have gone back and looked at some of the other game weeks. I mean, my ranks have kind of plateaued. I was about 220k. Now I'm like 190, something like that. It's been a pretty average game week so far, to be honest. But I've got 10 to play. De Gea in goal with Trent, Trippier and Dunk. Salah, Rashford, Grealish, Matoma, March, Haaland. And then I tried to be a bit different. People put off Jota because of his little back injury. I thought it probably wasn't true, so I bought him anyway. And then he was benched with a back injury, and then he recurred his back injury in the same game after scoring. So I think he's probably going to end up on 4 points. I was between.
Do you think that's him done?
I don't know. It's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? I'd like to see him kind of on the bench again, but I don't know. We'll find out kind of during the course of this stream, in 20 minutes or so.
Yeah. By the way, people are saying no Edison. I'm just looking at my phone.
No.
Yeah, apparently. I don't know if it's true, but that's what people are saying. And Kevin De Bruyne is not fit again. So it looks
Oh,
like Alvarez is probably going to get two unless he does something spicy.
I mean, if Jota is out and Edison's out and De Bruyne is out, they'd be three popular free hit players, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
There must be people watching this who went for those three.
Obviously, it's incredibly unlucky, but I think
Jeez.
that we've seen in previous seasons as well. The later you leave, kind of using chips for double game weeks, it seems to become harder to nail players playing twice. I think that was quite a large part of the appeal of. We don't always get them, of course. It depends on what seasons, but an earlier big double game week just seems to help you a little bit. But I think some of those are going to be related to injuries and other stuff and just bad luck. But I think it still applies that it does become harder because you don't know what teams are playing for what and other competitions that they're in, etc. So. Yeah, it looks like Alvarez may get two games, it was a brave punt to go with him, really. I think people probably thought if I get Alvarez in, it kind of makes sense in the upcoming games. I'll get lucky maybe in the double game week. We might come on for De Bruyne or Haaland for the last sort of 20 minutes a game. Maybe he gets a start. So you can see it because I think everyone else has either benched their other forward or it's just like literally a dead spot now in their team. But to get De Bruyne fully injured and potentially playing both the games is an absolute touch, isn't it? And maybe even plays Leeds now as well.
I know. So, I mean, I never. I could have had any striker really, and I can honestly say I never considered Alvarez. I was between Jota and Isak. With Southampton at home, and then head to double. But went with Jota for a bit of fun. To be fair, it has been pretty fun. I mean, watching him.
He's great, isn't he?
Nearly get sent off and then score the winner in that absolute carnage of a match. But yeah, the team's dull. I mean, there's no one that really excites me here. Apart from Jota, and he might be benched. So anyway, let's move off it. Pretty boring. I'm hoping this episode we can spark some life into some differentials for the run-in because everyone's got the same teams and I need to make up 100k places. So you can probably persuade me into anyone. Your team, you had Raya in goal. He conceded in a good-looking home game as well. Mark would be devastated with that result, though. That was a shocker for Forest. Shaw, Trent, Estepinian finally getting a decent attacking return, overshadowed by some of the other players. And then, pretty much the same team as me. Salah, Rashford, Matoma, March, Grealish, Haaland, and you've got Isak over my Jota. So 61 points for you. Fairly standard and average.
We've got two players different, I think, in a lineup. Is that right?
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, three. I've got De Gea. Oh, no, we've got a couple. You've got Raya, I've got De Gea. You've got Shaw and Estepinian. I've got Dunk and someone else. I played Trippier and then Isak versus Jota. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that's very similar across the board, isn't it?
It is. But
Depending
I'll tell you who people
to...
don't have. They don't have Pedro Porro like I do. The absolute lad that is Pedro Porro, who I'm hoping to never have to play between now and the end of the season.
I mean, he can do goals at least. I think I might have even talked you into that one on the last time we were on.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
I think he's top for efforts on goal again over the last 3 or 4. Yeah. I mean, considering no one can keep a clean sheet, he's actually not that bad of a pick.
There you go. I'm not playing him.
No.
I watched him at the Bournemouth game. He didn't look good. He just gets run past all the time. And
I think Romero and him combo over on that side of the pitch has just been absolutely brutal for Spurs. People are just taking the mick out of it at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely shocking. Mark, sadly, cannot be with us today. Thanks to him, though, for doing the tables like he normally does. He's having a good week. He's on 70, which is nice.
Nice.
Steele, Trippier, Shaw, Estepinian, Trent, McAllister, Salah. He's got Bruno. Pereira, who he's unlucky with, who's now out for the season, Rashford and Haaland. So, although he's trying to make up like kind of a lot of ground, he hasn't really gone that rogue with players. He has got Fernandes. He's got McAllister.
No, I think it's a very template 11. It's only really Andreas that's a bit different, right?
Yeah, I wonder who he's going to look at to try and steal his way. I mean, he's not done well. He had a real resurgence, and now he's stuck at around 500k. So I think top 100k is probably out of reach for him. For people asking if he's broken into the top million, he is in the top million, and he is just ahead of Focal as well. So he's not kind of the bottom content creator.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't realise that.
Yeah, it's a real battle between those two. Be interested to know who wins that one. We haven't got a great and the good update because Well, the game week's still going on, so I didn't see much point in doing that. So we will go straight over to planning and look at this tiny little table from Ben Krellin, which has the 2 remaining double game weeks coming up. Yeah, and just 4 game weeks left of this. I don't know where this year's gone, but there we go. Not many games left. What do you make of this? I mean, Brighton and Newcastle, they've got the double in 36. And then a few teams with a double in 37, Brighton, Chelsea, City and United, which kind of restricts our choices, really, doesn't it? Because we're not going to be selling any of those players, and any transfers we do make are probably going to be getting those players from those 4 teams in.
I think genuinely, like, it does feel like it's a really boring time when it really shouldn't be towards the end of the season, because we've all got quite similar teams, I think, or probably should have, just because of the volumes of fixtures. You touched on it there. What transfers do you really make? It's kind of like laid out for you. Like my transfers, when I go on FPL.team and have a look at what I could do, revolve around getting Nick Pope and then maybe Edison in 37, making 2 goalkeeper transfers in like the final 3 weeks. I mean, that's just the top level of boredom, isn't it? I think outside maybe people just waiting on what team Man City are going to put out versus Leeds and going for a Hail Mary on someone like Alvarez or Foden or whatever. Which you can throw a bit of excitement in, but even that you got to weigh up, because especially if it's your third City, then you're potentially blocking yourself from getting a third City in 37, and the one you obviously buy for the Leeds game might not play in 37, if that makes sense. So even that sort of slightly sexy option may end up causing you a negative over the 5 or 6 weeks. And obviously, even just getting the right City and the one that's going to play 90 minutes and actually haul is a task in itself. Even if they are going to win like 4 or 5-0 versus Leeds, you're never guaranteed, are you? So, yeah, that's about as exciting as it gets. Apart from that, it's hard to see what other transfers are not pretty obvious. You know, switching Trent maybe to Diaz or something like that in 37 can happen. You know, 38, yes, you probably want to go into it if you can sort of make it so to have 2 free transfers just to cope with any sort of lineup shenanigans. I imagine there'll probably be a few. The way that we get leaks at the moment as well, I guess there's potential we'll know some of the stuff beforehand. We've had like Scott Carson and people rock up in the past, haven't we? So maybe to tackle that, maybe to go for an Arsenal player for the home to Wolves game seems pretty good. But yeah, apart from that, it's a really struggle, at least for me. I mean, maybe I'm wide of the mark, but I don't know if you've looked at what you're looking to do in the coming weeks.
I think I'll be doing similar to what a lot of people are doing, which is hold this week, 2 Newcastle in for 36, unless you've already got kind of a Botman and a Trippier and an Isak. I've only got 1.
I suppose Wilson's another then, isn't he, actually?
Yeah,
if you're in that situation.
Yeah, we'll talk about him because a few people are considering doubling up on the Isak and Wilson strike force, obviously pairing that with Trippier. Or do you go for someone like a Murphy or even a Joe Linton? I mean, honestly, their stats aren't bad over the last 6, and they're scoring a lot of goals. So that could be the difference maker. Or do you stick with double defence and Isak and go with that? We'll talk about that in a sec. Yeah, I mean, even looking at 38, I mean, obviously the Liverpool-Southampton game really stands out, and Liverpool have got Leicester in Gameweek 36. So there is that choice of do we sell all these assets just to bring in a few more players from Chelsea. I mean, look at that double. I mean, City, United, and they go straight into Newcastle at home as well. And given the way they're playing, I don't know. There's not. I don't look at this and think, oh, there's some really exciting players I can bring in from these different sides. I look at it and think, it's all going to be. We're all going to have pretty similar teams, I think, right till the run in, which is a shame.
Yeah, it is. There's not much more I can add. I mean, people in the chat, if they feel like they've got some sexy options, then put them in for us. But it's a struggle. I think this week has highlighted some of the more sexier picks are obviously very risky in terms of minutes. And even when we dare to go with them, we seem to get smited down, like Jota being the example. And even De Bruyne, you could say, was a very big carrot for people who are going to use a chip this week or get something different that most people won't be able to get to because he's just too expensive. And even that seems to have failed. It doesn't mean that the future ones will fail, but it doesn't bode well, I would say, for other punts outside it.
West Ham, with Leeds and Leicester in the final 2 could be interesting. But
but they're obviously in the Europe, aren't they?
Haven't they? So it's a bit of a risk. I mean, if they're still fighting for points, maybe, but I think
Zaha, maybe another one back for Palace. God. I mean, I know how much you love him.
God, I was
He's not even on pens anymore, though, which is a benefit, isn't it?
I know. I was going to say though, do you think Edison is now not in the team? That's pretty much confirmed.
Is it?
He's been a troll anyway. I think it's between Ederson and Zaha this year, isn't it, for biggest troll?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I've still had Lucas Digne this season.
Yeah,
That was brilliant.
he's surpassed troll status. He's like on his own
He's
plane.
immortalised.
Yeah, he can't even compete with that. Before we get into the team data, let's just have a look at this from Jer 1970. Some XG data to please the analytics crowd. You sent this over. I mean, essentially what these charts are is it's the difference between kind of expected goals and expected goals conceded, with the idea being it shows the best teams, from that kind of metric. I mean, it is pretty interesting reading, isn't it? I mean, you've got Man City, right at the top over the season and the post-World Cup. But I mean, look at Newcastle in seconds. I mean, you talk about the work that Howe's done at that club. I mean, I was sceptical when he was signed. I was, keyboard warrior, saying, oh, this isn't a great appointment. I'll give him one season, all of this. Absolutely ridiculous the way he's turned around that defence. And now, because they were struggling a bit for goals, weren't they? At one point in the season, they weren't scoring too many. But now they're just, every week, you back them to get 2 or 3.
Yeah, and although they haven't been keeping the clean sheets, their defence strength in general has helped them to get above Arsenal, because like you say, it is the difference. They're a little bit behind on attack, but it's not even that much across the season, which is crazy to think about it, right? Because Arsenal have been amazing in attack all season, and Newcastle not to be that far behind them with, I guess you could say, Joe Linton and Murphy and people like that on the wings that you just wouldn't expect to be able to. I mean, Almiron at the beginning of the season, you certainly wouldn't have expected to do what he's done. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, he's got a tune out of players that, clearly anyone who's playing in the Premier League is probably a good player, but they hadn't really shown it so far. And he's managed to develop them, which is, it's hard, I think, for a lot of coaches these days to actually improve players, it seems, certain for some. And Al's certainly managed that with some people you wouldn't necessarily have expected. So, fair play, they've absolutely killed it. And you can only imagine with the money they've got and the way they finish again, it's only going to keep improving. So, definitely going to be a team for next season to look out for, and hard to price, I guess, in certain areas, especially Isak and Wilson. It's like you almost want both of them at the moment, and then what do you do next season in terms of pricing them? You're going to have factor in rotation. They're going to play together, because you could get that vastly wrong, right? There's potentially a player in there, if they say Wilson was somehow to play 9, and stay fit for 30 games or whatever, he could score a ridiculous amount of goals. So yeah, interesting for FPL for next season, but. Yeah, and also is it 36 to double? I guess a lot of people will look to get both Isak and Wilson, and captain one of them probably over Haaland, on the chance that, I imagine now on what we've seen so far, we probably get one start and a cameo. That seems to be the way. We might get lucky that Isak starts on the wing and they both start both games, but haven't really seen that happen from the start yet. But it's still maybe worth doing that over just, even Haaland with a single game week. If you get a start and a cameo, that could be enough to go over him over Haaland, or whichever one you pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible as a fan to see Brighton, so high on this list as well. I know obviously everyone's got a waxing lyrical about them this season, but these stats show that it's no fluke. I mean, 4th overall for this kind of difference metric, and the summer's going to be big for us because we're going to have some players leave. I think we'll probably lose 2 of our main stars. I think Matoma will probably stay with us for a bit. I think we could lose Casado and McAllister. Who comes in to kind of replace them. Cisco's come in and done really well. We've got options. Billy Gilmore potentially could step up. Be interesting to see if we can kind of continue this and what we can build.
I was say, do you think you'll do that? Because it can only ever last so long, can't it? I know Brighton are obviously a very, very well managed club, and their scouting network's brilliant, and you get these players in and they develop, but it's not always the case, and usually eventually at some point you get unlucky, right? A player comes in and he's not quite as good as you thought, or whatever happens. So if they do sell those players, it's not just a guarantee, is it, that they bring in other class players, although it's looking likely at the moment. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. What do you think for Brighton for next season? Do you think you will lose 1 or 2 and then still carry on and still crack on? Even the manager's going to be hard sought after, isn't he? Even in this short period, the way football is at the moment, I don't know how long we can see him being there, to be honest.
I think we need to avoid getting gutted. I think that's the thing. Like if we lose like 3 or 4 players, then we're going to be in real trouble. But I think McAllister is someone that I think we've got other players that could slot in. Like Cisco playing in that 10, Buonanotte. It'd be interesting to see what his development is like going forward in that kind of number 10-ish role. Casado's going to be the big one to replace when he goes, because we're seeing, aren't we, just how important that kind of defensive shield is for so many teams. You know, Casemiro coming into United and sorting that out. You look at Spurs losing Bentancur. You look at, you know, Liverpool's frailties with Fabinho not being quite how he is. That spot is so crucial. So who do we get in to replace that? But yeah, I'm hopeful. The scouting record is good. But you're right. The fact we keep signing players from, you know, leagues that maybe they haven't got the kind of the pedigree that we've seen, is always going to present more of a risk. There's always a Johannesback waiting in the wings, or a Jurgen Locadia, you know.
Well, that perfectly sums it up. Yeah, but Florin Sandu in the chat saying, didn't Casido just sign another contract? I think he did, didn't he? But it's just to get more money, isn't it?
He was on about 8k a week, so he had to sign something. I don't think it makes a blind bit of difference. I think, you know, if a team comes in with 67 million for him in the summer, he'll go. I think, because we've seen that his head can be turned, and he's probably got an agreement in place to see out the season. So I don't know. We'll see. If we get Europe, maybe we do keep them. But they're the two that I think are most likely to go. Anyway, enough about Brighton. Just one thing I want to mention here is Spurs, the decline in Spurs, because over the season, you know, Spurs are in the positive net in terms of this XG versus XG conceded, but since the World Cup, they're in the negative. So it's just no coincidence they've been as bad as they are. They've just absolutely fallen off a cliff. And again, you know, while Brighton will be hopeful that they can keep things as they are, Spurs are the opposite. They've got to somehow turn things around, and I don't know what the answer is for them, because they look a shambles.
Yeah, they need a lot of players, I think, in a lot of positions, don't they? But again, it just highlights how much the coach helps. And we know Conte's a class coach, and it hasn't really worked out for him at Spurs. But the moment you remove him and just bring in any job's body, it's just completely fallen apart. You know, him, Mourinho, a lot of other players, managers that are good, have played in a similar style for Spurs for a while. You know, basically completely use everyone else in the team to defend for your life and hope that Kane or Son perform because they're elite finishers and elite players. And it's kind of the blueprint for Spurs, and Spurs fans are annoyed at that, thinking, we should be doing more. We should be, you know, trying to attack and dominate games. And although I don't think they're doing that, it just shows you that the moment they sort of let loose in the defensive area, they're getting demolished all over the place. So I don't know what the answer is, but yeah, hopefully Spurs fans will get some joy, because I feel bad for them.
Do you?
But yeah, the banter that Spurs fans get, man, it's in group chats all over the place.
I think not a lot have a lot of sympathy for them. I've got friends who are Spurs fans. I go to their ground quite often. I don't have any major, you know, dislikes.
No, you just hate Chelsea.
I do hate Chelsea. They are. I'm not shy about that one. For all the people that say I hate United and Spurs and everyone, no, I don't. I can't stand Chelsea.
Oh, can I give you some breaking team news? Apparently.
Oh yes.
No Rice for West Ham.
Well, that is killer.
So, oh my God, whatever this Man City team is in 1 minute.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Because there was rumours he was going to bench a lot of the players for Europe, even though it's like 8 days away or whatever. They're just going to write it off, essentially.
Interesting. Yeah, okay. No Edison, no Rice. I'm guessing Jota's benched. No Rice, Souček or Zuma, says.
Wow. Well, Zuma was injured, wasn't he? But yeah, that's mad. Well, we're going to get the team lineups in like 1 minute.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll come on to that in 1 minute. Let's look at the last 6. Team data attack. This is where we are going to find some gems. I believe in us to find some players over the course of the next hour. Team data attack. We got Brighton in first, 2.74. There might be some gems within the Brighton squad if we're willing to roll the dice on a couple of different assets for everyone else. Newcastle in second. Both of these teams taking form ahead of the double coming up. Liverpool in third as well. As I mentioned, 2 good games in that Southampton game, 38. Might persuade us to keep faith with some of their attackers. And then City, United, Arsenal. So it's much as we were kind of for the season. The top teams are all massively outperforming everyone else in the league. If you're looking for which defenders to play, the bottom 3 teams are cut adrift over the last 6. Forest, Southampton, and look at that, Wolves right down the bottom as well. Any surprises there?
I'll throw it back to you. Any surprises?
No, not really. I mean, I've been impressed with Bournemouth, you know, from an attacking perspective. They're up in 8th. Leicester as well, you know, XG non-penalty 1.67, 1.61. I mean, that Leicester-Everton game didn't have the highest XG of all games
in the first half. Yeah.
Yeah, in the first half, something like that. You talk about teams that are, on the beach, but also teams that are in these relegation spots. You think they're going to be quite tight games. Neither team wants to lose that match. They're going to defend. Well, they can't. Leicester specifically can't. So they've got to kind of go on the attack, and we're seeing that, and maybe that is something to target. I mean, Maddison owners. There must be some Maddison owners out there. Oh God, the pain of him. Yeah, one of my favourite players, but on pens and then misses one.
Yeah, that's brutal, isn't it? Because if he added pens to his repertoire and he scores them, suddenly he becomes an extremely interesting FPL pick. I mean, even if Leicester went down, I presume someone would buy him and then maybe he'd take over. But yeah, that's kind of devastating to have that happen and then straight away out. I think he came out and said that Iheanacho's on them and Maddison's second now. Vardy's not even in the conversation because he's not been playing. So obviously he is now playing, so maybe that can change. But interesting whether that stays like that or not now then, because Iheanacho is obviously not guaranteed to start games. So that would mean Maddison's generally on them with the team he's been picking of late, which has been Vardy up top and Maddison in midfield. So yeah, Everton are an interesting one as well, aren't they? Because obviously the new manager comes in and you expect that they're going to be more defensively sound, and yet they seem to be playing on the halfway line and trying to play like they're Barcelona.
I mean, a chance per 90 of 15.17 is actually one of the best in the league. There's only a few teams that are kind of, better than that. Palace are on 16.5. United are on 17.67 and Brighton are on 21.8. But then there's quite a few teams kind of around that 15 mark and then quite a big drop off. So they are kind of created chances. Their big chances per 90 isn't very high, but they're getting kind of lots of smaller chances. And you've got to, if you're an Everton fan, you're kind of hoping that Calvert-Lewin can feed on those scraps and make something of it. But again, it does seem like quite a big ask. I mean, who do you think is going down?
Well, I think Forest are down. Southampton are obviously down.
Big Sam, is he keeping Leeds up?
Probably not. I think Leeds are probably the other one, to be honest. I don't want them to keep him up. I mean, I don't mind Leeds. I think I want to keep teams in the league that, even though they have been under different managers, they play in an exciting style generally. I know Garcia didn't really tip to that. So yeah, I wanted to keep him in. But now Big Sam's in there. I can't see him being an exciting style, even if they were to stay up. Or I don't know what the situation is actually. Is he just keeping him to the end of the season?
Yeah, he's got 4 games. He's got 4 games to keep him up.
Okay.
I think he's on 500 grand salary, and he gets 2.5 million or something if he keeps him up. So he's got nothing to lose.
Would they keep him in that situation then? What do you think?
Oh, surely not. Surely.
Well, he's one of the best managers of all time, according to him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, why go for Pep or Klopp when you can have Sam? I mean, it depends what they want to do with the identity of the club, doesn't it? I mean, it's such a ridiculous. I mean, you think Carlo Ancelotti to Sean Dyche in 2 managerial moves is crazy, and they've gone from Bielsa to Allardyce. So. Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see. I personally think whatever happens, Allardyce is going to go, but yeah, he won't do his reputation any harm if he does manage to keep him up. I just can't see it. I just can't see him staying up. I don't know where the point's going to go. They've got such a hard run in. They've got City, Newcastle, West Ham.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'd prefer Everton went down. No offence, any Everton fans. They don't really do it for me.
No.
And yeah, like I said, if Leeds were to get another manager, I still think they have got some I know they've got some bad players, but they have got some good players as well and some exciting players. And I don't think they know how to defend. So I think it's just better for FPL to have teams that can surprise you and score goals. And Leeds are one of those teams. They haven't really shown it this season, but we know that they can.
Yep. I think if Forest win against Southampton at home, which they should, I think they'll stay up and Everton will go down. But it would be pretty typical if Forest managed to lose that game, and then I think they're finished. Big weekend, I think, in the relegation spot. Defence. Look at that.
Should we look at the lineups quickly?
Let's have a look at the lineups. Yeah, go on. Who's in?
Yeah. So should I just read it out? I've got Man City's one. So Ortega is in goal.
Gonna come on to City defence in a minute. Yeah, good.
Wow. Okay. What the hell? Okay, someone's put some fake line up there. Walker, Stones, Diaz, Ake. So Ake straight back in.
Oh, you're kidding. I sold him this week.
Yeah, I thought because he talked about again Pep West Ham's aerial threat, and Ake is the best in the air for them. I thought if there was a chance he's fit, then Ake will come in because he really does not like that situation and West Ham set pieces. But I didn't think he'd come in because he's one day of training and usually he's quite precautious with them. So bit of a surprise. Anyway, Rodri, Bernardo, Mahrez, Alvarez, Grealish, Haaland. So Grealish does get 2 games and Mahrez gets 2 as well. Foden on the bench. I really thought Foden might actually play tonight.
That's not going to do your success rating any good.
No, it's not. But to be honest, that one's predicted before the other game, which makes it twice as hard, doesn't it? Because you've obviously got the Fulham game and then you've got this one. So predicting a game ahead predicting one game's hard enough, let alone 2.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Good caveat, Luke. What about the Liverpool? I'm guessing Jota's not starting.
Oh God, yeah. Let me get the Liverpool one up.
Robertson and Gakpo benched.
I thought I saw Darwin was starting, so let me just check that.
Probably Darwin.
Yeah, Alisson, Trent, Kanate, Van Dijk, Tsimikas.
Tsimikas, okay.
So in the double, Robbo got benched again.
Okay.
Henderson, Fabinho, Jones, Salah, Nunes, Diaz.
Is Joshua on the bench? Well, can
I
at least hope for some
Jota? He is on the bench.
He's on the bench. Okay.
So is Gakpo, yeah.
Well, come on. He'll get me a goal. He'll get me a goal off the bench. I've got faith. It could be sound clipped when this is ended. So defence data. I mean, we'll talk about City. I mean, City defensively... I mean, you look at these stats, you look at their defence over the season, you look at the expected goals conceded, they're top always of every metric. And yet we haven't got a reliable defender to go for. You know, a lot of us started with Walker at the start of the season. That experiment died off. I had Ake, then he got injured. Now he's back. That's incredibly frustrating. Quite a few people have gone for Akanji because didn't he start like 20 games in a row? Then people started bringing him in and then now he's getting rotated like every other game. And then Edison, obviously... conceding goals from really low XG shots and then randomly missing it. Is he on the bench? Is he injured? I can't understand why he's...
I don't know what's happened there because obviously I'm doing this, so I haven't had a look. Let me just see if he's on the bench. Sorry, everyone. It's probably boring for everyone who knows, right? Oh, he is on the bench.
That's weird. Okay, that's very weird then. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, you don't really need to rest Edison, do you? Weird. So it smells of being dropped, weird. To be honest.
Yeah. I mean, what do you do with City defenders? I mean, should I be upset that I haven't got Ake and I did have him?
I think the bottom line is, I was going to say Edison's the only safe route, but he's not anymore, is he, apparently? So we don't know. Diaz is clearly the one to go for. He's played every game since he's been available. The thing that is in the back of the mind there is as much as they need him, and I do think he will probably play every game. You know, if they do progress in the Champions League, they've obviously got the Leeds game, they've got the Everton game either side, and then they've got the double in 37 as well, and then obviously the final in the Cups. You know, because he is so key and so needed, the moment like maybe the league's won or if he needs to give someone a rest, then potentially he can miss those games, can't he? So it's kind of like catch-22 situation. I still think he's the most nailed, but you just can't guarantee he'll play every game. And as a result, they've just got so many good players back there, so many different options. He's definitely the front runner. I think I'd have Ake, Stones and Akanji all very close, though. I mean, they are clearly in their best team. You can see what he considers to be his best team for the Champions League lineups for the big games. It's generally the same team, especially at the back. Certainly for the moment. And we all know things can change with Pep depending on how they play and their form and stuff. But those four look fairly settled. And you just have to take it on the chin. Every now and then, one of them might miss a game if you want to go there. The alternative is just not to go there, isn't it?
I still like Stones, you know. I know you haven't been too hot on him because of injuries and because, you know, of the potential rotation. But
yeah, well, I mean, he was my favourite pick last time we were in this situation for the double. I was like, Stones is clearly the best one. But what happened is he got injured straight away. And then Pep came out and said, we have to be careful with Stones when games are close because we know what happens to him. You know, even in the game where he got injured, he said he didn't look right when he was on the pitch. He looked like he was tired and I knew he was going to get injured or something along those lines. So he keeps playing, fair play to him. He's playing in that role. But I think he's probably equal to all the other ones now. Probably I've overestimated how much he will be rotated. But it's just in the back of my mind that he is so key and he is so good and he has that record. So therefore, when you have the other games, the big games in the Champions League, he's primed for a rest. And we can even see that he is one of the defenders that has been bought off pre-60 as a result. Yeah. There's no real reason.
It happened twice, didn't it?
I think it's happened twice. Yeah, one of them he had a yellow card, to be fair. So you could say, okay, just in case. But, you know, is he going to play Stones versus Leeds and versus Everton either side of Real Madrid? I think that's the real test with Stones. But ultimately, if they all end up with, 6 out of 8 or whatever it is by the end of it, doesn't really make much difference. And I suppose you just go for whichever one you like. If Stones is playing in midfield, then you could argue is a little bit more of a threat. And certainly from set pieces, even though it doesn't necessarily show in the stats. Stones, we know, has an aerial threat and seems to have the ability to get on the end of a ball. So fair play.
I think you're right though. Diaz is the one. We mentioned Howe and sort of kind of him surpassing expectations. Well, it's now been 6 games for Roy Hodgson. They have been absolutely relentless in their quest to climb up the table. And the thing that surprised me the most is, look at this. Team data defence, Palace second, 0.79 expected goal conceded on penalty. I mean, they have had good fixtures. That was one of the big sort of things when Vieira went. People wondering why he didn't get these games to play. But, they were pretty poor, like all over the pitch, and they've scored a bucket load of goals. They've won, 4 of the 3 of the 6 games, or 4 of 6 games, something like that. A bit of a blip against Wolves, but other than that, they've been really, really impressive, and the defense has been really strong. So, I mean,
what do you put that down to? Because is it just manager bounce, the freedom? Is it the fixtures? Is it just a combination of everything?
Absolutely no idea. I did not think he would be able to do what he's done. I didn't feel like there was a bad feeling towards Vieira in the squad. It didn't look like the team had stopped playing for him or anything. And I can't really understand it. But whatever's happened, he's turned it around. So fair play, Roy. good effort. At the other end of this chart, though, these are your whipping boys at the moment. I don't think it's any surprise with some of these teams. Spurs, Everton, Southampton, Leeds, Forest. These are the players we want to be targeting because they are conceding, nearly 2 expected goals a game, which is a huge amount. Arsenal, though, 13th, 1.59. I mean, a lot of us have sold Arsenal attackers. If you've still got an Arsenal defender, surely you're jumping off that.
Been a bit painful, isn't it? What was the stat you said to me today earlier?
Only Southampton have got less clean sheets than Arsenal at home all season. and they're second compared to bottom.
Yeah, that's mad. I think there's 2 other teams with them, isn't there, on like 3 all season or whatever it is at home, which is mental because the data doesn't suggest that should be the case. And this is why we were having a brief discussion beforehand. Clean sheets generally do follow expected goals conceded over a season. If you've got better data, you're more likely to keep clean sheets. Like, that is a general rule. But there is also an incredible amount of luck and noise around clean sheets. You can just be immaculate all game and the one shot goes in. And pretty much Man City are the poster child for that scenario. And it's really unfortunate. And you can also have games. I mean, Man United kept another clean sheet and they're one of the top this season last week. And I don't really know how they managed it.
No.
Like, Lindelof off the line and David De Gea making saves all over the place. And yeah, you can't really account for that, can you? So there's a large element of luck that comes with clean sheets, it seems. And it makes predicting points in that area really, really tough.
I mean, look at their big chance conceded per 90, Arsenal's over the last 6, 3.17. Only Spurs at 3.5 and Forest at 3.33 are worse than Arsenal. So, the chances conceded per 90 is fairly low at 12, sort of around, about mid-table-ish, maybe a bit higher. But when they do concede chances, they're conceding big chances. So, can you attribute that to defensive mistakes? I mean, Holding hasn't really been good enough, has he? I mean, the downgrade from him compared to Saliba has been huge. Zinchenko, arguments that he's not kind of the greatest defender. Partey's been a bit off it as well. So there has been individual mistakes there, and that's why it's happening. So even though the XG conceded is low, they are allowing these kind of odd big chances for teams and getting punished by them.
Again, that can just be anything though, can't it? The general team for 90 minutes can be great, but I think a couple of times for Arsenal in like the first sort of minute of kickoff, they've allowed like a big chance or even a goal conceded like straight away. So that's going to jump the data straight up to begin with. And there's not much you can do about that. I think, they've had some injuries and they've had some tougher fixtures as well. Definitely had tougher fixtures, and that's why a lot of us jumped off to then come back potentially towards the end of the season. But
it's interesting to know because I think the defence is something that we don't often talk about in terms of the eye test and attacks. We tend to do that with players. Right, a player, rubbish stats, but keeps scoring penalties like Milivojevic a few years ago, or Jesse Lingard or someone like that. But we're looking at defence. I mean, we have remember last year when Palace had really, really good defensive stats into this, but they was always conceding a goal a game. City this year, Arsenal as well. I mean, are you on the side now of you still getting players with the best stats, and then eventually that's going to kind of come round? Or
pretty much, because what else can you go with? Because I mean, if anyone's got another idea for me, I don't know. Because to just say, oh, okay, this team doesn't keep clean sheets because that's not what's happening, but the data suggests that they should, and you just go with what's actually happening, fine, okay, if that's what you want to do. But how long does that generally last? Like you then suddenly go, maybe it does last for quite a part of the season, but you go to another part of the season and the trend doesn't continue and everything eventually reverts. It's all about the sample size again. If you were to stand back and look at, I don't know, pluck it out of thin air 3 years and look at it, you'd see that it's a lot more aligned. But it's just that short period. It just seems like inevitable, that this thing's going to keep happening. I mean, what other metric can you use apart from expected goals
Well,
conceded?
you're not going to look at Forest and be like, well, they're bottom, but I think there's some clean sheets on the horizon. I'm going to get in some Forest
Well,
defenders.
exactly.
So
I
it
mean,
can't, it has to work both ways if you're going to be looking like that in theory.
absolutely, and we can see the anomalies this season. You mentioned one of them. I mean, Arsenal only keeping 3 clean sheets at home despite being so dominating all season. It's just, next season they could play exactly the same and end up with 8 or 9 quite comfortably. And the same for Man City.
I
So
mean, United are a good example though, right? Because United defensively this season have been up and down, and I think they're 10th over the last 6 in terms of expected conceding on penalty, and I think that's probably about where they'll end up over the season as well. But they have got the most clean sheets in the league, and particularly at home, teams are finding it really, really hard to break them down with Casemiro there. I mean, if you were to ask me to pick a Man City defender or a United defender, I went for De Gea over Ederson, for example, because I thought, from what I'm seeing, I think United are more likely to get the clean sheets because they have been kind of all season. So that was an example of when I went against the data. And okay, I've got very lucky tonight, but it is a trend that seems to keep progressing because we thought with Varane and Martinez got injured, with Lindelof and Shaw moving over to centre back or Maguire potentially coming in.
they've been great.
They've
Shaw
just
and
been
Lindelof
good.
have been
They've
fantastic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They've just carried on from
But
where
who would have
left off.
necessarily predicted that beforehand? Again,
No
if
way.
you can, fair enough. I mean, Shaw's been good at centre back most of the season when he's been asked to step in, but to have Lindelof has been ropey in the past. He's probably been a bit unlucky, I'd say, because he's played in some teams that haven't been great. Some defenders are obviously better when they're alongside certain people and whatever the partnership is, and to throw him against
If you had told me
alongside
that
Maguire.
Lindelof and Shaw would be like centre backs at the start of this season, I would have found that very hard to believe. But yeah, fair play. He's another manager. He's doing a great job. We're seeing lots of managers doing terribly, but yeah, lots of
Doing well, isn't he? The added bonus is they're cheaper, I think, in general than the Man City defenders. They are more likely to play every single game.
Yep.
And you could argue, I think Rashford, Bruno, and then a defender or a De Gea is pretty much it. Whereas with Man City, yes, it's probably similar, but on any random given game week, you could punt on a few Man City attacking options. So it also lends itself to having a defender in your team, right? A De Gea or a Shaw. I mean, I've kept Shaw throughout the entire injury, and he's missed most of the clean sheets, unfortunately. But now looking forward with the doubles and the games he's got, I'm pleased that I've got Luke Shaw on my team. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Goalkeepers. I mean, I've got De Gea. I went for him over Shaw and Ederson. I've been quite happy actually with how he's been. I wasn't expecting loads of saves from him, but the clean sheets have been coming. Lots of criticism, but his expected goal prevented is in the positive, 1.3 over this period. Steals is -2.1, but his points per 90 is second highest, just under Martinez over the last 6. And Ederson, look at that, down in 16th, 2 points per game, which is kind of where he's been for a lot of this season on this chart. And you got Pope there with 4. I mean, we never like to dwell too much on goalkeepers, but if you were buying one, it's probably between these 4, isn't it? Given the doubles coming up.
Yeah, I think David De Gea probably, or Steele makes sense from now. I think we said that last week as well, didn't we?
I think Steele misses one between now and the end of the season. I think.
Okay.
I mean, Sanchez, I think, redeemed himself quite a lot in the semi-final game. I know he didn't save any of the penalties, but he had a good solid game in that. I think he'll probably want to be put in the window a bit. I don't think there's a huge. I don't think De Zerbi's gone, right, Sanchez, you're absolutely useless now. It's all about Steele. I think he's giving Steele a chance, and Sanchez will probably go. But I think there's probably another opportunity for Steele for Sanchez at some point this season. So for that reason, I wouldn't buy him.
Okay.
But I think if you've got him, you've probably got another goalkeeper as well, and you're fine. But I wouldn't be surprised. Last home game of the season, Sanchez comes in. That's my prediction.
I suppose you could level that at a few other goalkeepers as well, right? I think Kepa Mendy, maybe even before that. A few others.
When a team's really struggling like they are, goalkeepers are often quite an easy sub, aren't they? And Kepa's got a history of Lampard. Mendy's knocking around. Kepa's been poor as well, I think, since Lampard's come in. It could aim that at a lot of them, but he's not been. You know, there was a point, isn't it, when I was going into weeks without Kepa, thinking he's going to get another 10 points here. I don't know.
It's just mad for like 5 weeks. He was just
Yeah.
untouchable. Yeah, I didn't have him at all during that period. That was annoying.
That was fun.
And even Everson, I think Ward's played a lot of the season. Maybe he gives him one game. There could be some potentially owned goalkeepers in FPL circles that get benched towards the end. But you're not going to worry about it, are you? If it happens, it happens. But most of the time, they're getting 2 points, it seems. So,
yep, agreed. I think we both agreed on that. Defenders over the last 6. Nice to see Trent back at the top of the pile. I talked about him on my team selection last week for Scout. His XGI non-punted per 90 has effectively doubled since he got this new midfield role. So if you haven't got him, I know there's no double for them coming up, but I still think people should be moving towards him. I think if you're looking for a player to get you a 21 pointer, then he's probably your man. Just don't bench him like Luke did a few years ago, which I'm sure you're over.
I sold him actually.
You sold him, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's better or worse. Probably better. I don't know, probably worse actually, because you want him back. Just highlight some other players here. Estepinian finally on this list. I mean, 0.26. It's not massive, but it is quite a way up from where he's been a lot of this season.
He could have scored twice, couldn't he?
He could through on goal. He's definitely getting more opportunities. He's crossing more. His chances created in the top 10. I think he was through on goal. I think he's been through on goal 3 times or something in the last couple of weeks. So yeah, I think another attacking return at least is on the cards for him soon. So yeah, I'm looking at Dunk and thinking, maybe I should have been a bit braver and gone for him. But yeah, he's looking good. Moreno as well. He's still on my bench. Attacking stats aren't amazing, but Villa are playing well. They've got Wolves next as well, and we've seen Wolves have got the lowest rated attack over the last 6. Slight risk of Dean, I think. Moreno's played a lot of games.
Maybe for one, right?
Probably for one, but yeah, again, probably not a player I'd be buying given the fixtures, but I'm happy to hold him. And I think he was through on goal as well in the last game against United.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. He's that kind of player. Then looking at Porro, you got 2 shots per 90. That is the highest of all defenders over the last 6, as you've mentioned. And then you've got Sharon Botman as well in 21st and 22nd. Share with 3 assists in 7 starts. Botman with the 1.
2 in 1 game.
2 in 1 game. I know, you had him on your free hit.
I had him for that. Yeah, lucky. I've still got Chilwell in my team.
I mean, his underlyings are decent, 0.32. He's in 6th. I mean, this Bournemouth game, I was really worried about this Bournemouth game, not having Chilwell. But I think Bournemouth win it.
Well, this is kind of what I've done with my team different to a few people. Is I think most people made the Chilwell to Trent switch, and I had the money in the bank to afford to not do that and keep Chilwell. Now, I don't know whether that's worth it. That's the worry, because I've kind of done that in order to play him versus Forest and Bournemouth and hope that he gets attacking returns. It's good to see that he's still high up on there. And I think he was... Do you see Ramsdale's save from him the other night? I mean, again, bursting through, having the shot. So really, that's my main hope, that he just plays the games, because Cucurella's still injured, isn't he? So maybe he'll be back for 37 or whatever it is. But the minutes thing was the kind of risky thing, because we saw that Lamps came in and then straight away he played Cucurella over Chilwell. May have had something to do with the Champions League, but go on. He's
been a big disappointment though, Chilwell, hasn't he? I mean,
he's not achieved what he should have achieved. Nah. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, we all bought him in after Gameweek 27, right? That was when he got 8 points against Leicester. He then got 1-0-9, which was good, against Liverpool of all teams, and then 0-1-1-1. So he's had 1 return really since we all turned to him.
I think we benched him that game, or most people did. I can't remember now, but no, I haven't had anything out of him. But this has been the problem all season. I'm just going to continue, me personally, to pick where I can the most attacking players. So Trent Alexander-Arnold's in my team. I've got Trippier. I've got Chilwell, and I've got Estupiñán, and hope I get attacking points, because I can't buy a clean sheet for love nor money. Yeah.
Anyone here that you like? Defense has been such a hard one all season.
I do actually like Porro or Perisic just for the run-in, for the same reasons as mentioned. They're high on the... I know, they're probably likely to ship a load of goals, but I think with Perisic, he's actually been looking pretty good. They do take some set pieces, and obviously he's, how much worse can it get? I don't know. Maybe things can improve. maybe that's optimistic of me, but outside of Newcastle defenders for the double or City defenders, and you have to hope they play twice, I don't know where else you would even turn. Man United, yes, but I think most of us already got our Man United defender.
I mean, Trippier has been disappointing as well. 7 starts, points per 90 of 3.42, only 1 assist in that time. His chances created per 90 is still the highest of all defenders, 3.57. His baseline bonus is still the highest of all defenders, 20.38. His XG non-penalty per 90 is still 4th on the list. So, Newcastle haven't really been keeping too many clean sheets. He hasn't been getting the attacking returns, but he's not a player I think we should be losing ahead of the double.
No, that's why I've left him in. I think there's an argument to lose him after the double. Yeah. I think that's fine.
Who have they got on the last day? Let me tell you. They've got Chelsea away. Chelsea away, yeah.
Yeah, which some people will say is a guaranteed clean sheet the way Chelsea can't score, but I'm not sure I agree. I still think there's better options that week.
Yeah.
But home to Leicester in 37, that's fine, but we've got loads of other teams doubling, so you might not need him for that. 36 away to Leeds, decent fixture. It's more than okay to keep them, and obviously they've got the double, haven't they, there? So, yeah, sorry, it was after 36, wasn't it? So 37.
Potentially that's when you do Trippier to Diaz in 37, right?
Yeah, you do something like that. Maybe. But I think he was fine, as I just said, home to Leicester and then away to Chelsea probably isn't the worst in the world. So it's just kind of, if you're in that luxury position where you can make the move, then you probably do. I think moving to an Arsenal defender as well for 38 probably makes sense. Gabriella White, despite them not keeping clean sheets, home to Wolves feels like one that they could get something in.
Yep. Midfield. Look at some of the players I've highlighted here. If this doesn't whet your appetite, then what will? I've got Murphy highlighted. I've got Willock, Ericsson. Surely we can persuade a few people into one of these players. De Bruyne is top. Midfielders over the last 6. I think free hitters got really, really unlucky with that. I was looking at that and thinking of ways I could get it. But it was this time last year, wasn't it, when he came in, got those 4 goals against Wolves. Massively changed people's seasons around, ruined mine. Made a load of people really happy. So I think he was a great option this week, and for him to miss out on Bo. Hopefully, I hope that the people have got a decent bench option. If it's a Watkins, then it's
definitely a good pick on 3 hit. But I just think we did have the information that he went off with niggles. I know Pep then said everyone's fine, but anyone who watched the press conference, he wasn't actually directly asked about it. He kind of did it while he was going on a massive rant about how we're challenging for the title in the league, and he was like, everyone's okay, and only Nathan, and it was kind of like brief in the background. So yeah, annoying that we didn't have that information. But I think there's also the fact that I don't doubt for a second that I probably would have had him on free hit in that week. But just because he performed very well versus Arsenal and got the 2 goals, that doesn't mean that's kind of what his role would have been in the other games. And we know all season he's not really been that kind of player. So I can see it from both ways. I mean, he's definitely unlucky, but people who expected 4 goals, obviously.
His XGI non-penalty penalty has been high, really high all season. We haven't really had that security of starts with him. But when he has played, he has, under-delivered on the promise we saw. So I guess
mostly assists, though.
Yeah, I would have gone for him 100%. If I was free hitting this week, I would have gone for him and hoped that he could finally come good. But yeah, I think it's pretty unlucky. Looking at some of the other players, Murphy, Willock, and Joe Linton. I was going to say all in the top 10. Joe Linton's 11th, but Murphy in 3rd, 0.72. 3 goals and an assist over his 6 starts. 4.1 million.
Is that how much he is? That's mad. We don't even really need money at this point, do we? But I think any of these are fine. I genuinely think any of those midfielders from Newcastle with the double.
4.1 million. I thought that was. I just checked that to see if it was wrong, but no, he is 4.1 million. Is that the cheapest of midfielders ever been? We've read a 4.
I think there has been a 4. In fact, I think Shane Ferguson started the game as 4 million once for Newcastle.
Yeah, probably 100% ownership at that time. Willock, Willock's been good for us in previous seasons, 4.7. It is difficult to look at these players. I know you mentioned that the budget isn't an option, but if Murphy was 7 million, would there be more takers for him? Is it because he's so?
I don't know about that.
Let me sell Jacob Murphy to people.
I think it's fine because if you're trying to be different and they've got extra games and they're playing very well and he's likely to play an attack, I think it's absolutely fine to go for them. Like, there's not a problem. The issue is which midfielders do you lose for them?
Yeah.
And that's the situation we're in. We've all pretty much got like the best midfield picks in inverted commas, and is like he's probably just on the periphery of that. So if the goal, let's say you are Mark and you're trying to be totally different, I could see you just doing it, knowing that probably Jacob Murphy doesn't score as many points as Bruno Fernandes, but we all know over 4 or 5 weeks he could. So fair enough.
Well, here's one for you, Joe Linton. He has 6 attacking returns in 6 starts over the last 6. He has an XG non-penalty per 90 of 0.6, which is higher than Rashford. He's got an XG non-penalty per shot of 0.24, which is one of the highest in the league.
Did you ever think you'd be saying this?
Could he be the saviour that we need?
It's been really good, to be fair.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say on that, and I don't know whether this is right, but Newcastle, I've been listening to a few Newcastle fans, and I think Longstaff is out, isn't he? I think he's potentially injured.
Sure. I'm not sure, potentially, yeah.
Yeah,
and Almiron's back, isn't he? So that affects Murphy.
Right. So I think there's some school of thought that Joe Linton could go back into midfield rather than playing in the front three. And then Isak will play with Wilson and Isak being on the left wing. We've seen him play quite a lot of minutes there recently. And I think in both times when that happened, they needed goals and they started, Wilson started banging him in and Isak was, went on that wonder run, for example, and done really well. So is a solution to that to bring Joe Linton back into midfield, quite possibly. So that might start denting his numbers a little bit. Suddenly you'll have bought Joe Linton playing in centre midfield for Newcastle. It doesn't feel quite as good.
I'm going to do it, I think, though. I'm going to go for one of these Newcastle mids.
Okay.
Yeah, one. I don't know which one, but I think you'll probably end up seeing me with Murphy, Willock, or Joe Linton in my side in the next week. I think they could potentially be the difference makers. I mean, you've got Leeds and Brighton in 36. Well, Leeds is a great fixture, and then straight into Leicester in 37. I like that. So they're actually some of the difference makers I was looking at when I was looking at this. I mean, what about Eriksen as well? I mean, United have got another double coming up. I know we haven't really considered Eriksen all season, but in 3 starts, he's got an XG on per 90 of 0.6, which is pretty high. Shot per 90 of 3.57 is high in the top 10 of midfielders. High shot in the box per 90 as well. Actually, the chances created per 90 isn't massively high compared to some of the other players, but again, he's an option that no one's going to have. His ownership's going to be basically 0%. I've only got 2 United players in my team, Rashford and De Gea. Potentially, he could be someone a bit different. I know what you mean, though. It's that midfield spot, isn't it? It's having to sacrifice. If we had 6 midfielders, you could find a spot for one of these guys, but having to swap out a Salah or someone for an Eriksen is
it's
a bit of an ask.
It's in punt territory. It's as simple as that, isn't it? Because there's also the fact that I think most people would agree that Bruno, Rashford, David De Gea and Shaw are probably your best 4 picks from Man United. So you're then looking at the sort of the 5th, 6th best pick and then in a position where we don't have much spots for it. So as much as he could be fine, generally he's playing a bit deeper and it's very much a punt. There's no other way to put it.
Luke, stop shitting on these excellent options that I'm
sorry. I mean, he could do fantastic. He could do fantastic.
You watch Eriksen and Joe Linton go absolutely off over the next few weeks. But who else is there? I mean, it's really, really hard to find players that are going to, push us on to our goals between now and the end of the season. Because you want a player like Son to come out, with his real history and things. I mean, you mentioned Zaha earlier. I mean, 0.71, but he's only had 2 starts off pens. Anthony's high on this list as well. If you are looking for a United player, 0.74 for him.
Takes a lot of shots, doesn't he?
Takes a lot of shots.
I think someone in the chat saying Jordan Ayew, and I think, Eze, for me, if he is going to keep penalties, suddenly probably jumps into the conversation above all of them, maybe, because the fixtures are good enough.
Yeah.
Again, it's midfield. I don't think you have to go crazy to just boost your rank. You probably just play as well as you can possibly play and pick the best picks. And if you are going to go crazy, to me, it's more the very last couple of game weeks more than anything. But, depending on how far away you are, that might not be enough. You might have to start doing it. So, yeah, these are, unfortunately, the players you probably have to start considering.
I'm going to end the season with Joe Linton on my team. So
love that. Well, you had Bruno Guimaraes at one point. And he went wild, didn't he? So
I knew. Yeah, maybe they move Joe Linton back into DM and then he'll score a brace like Guimaraes did. Oh, what a day that was. Forwards. Let's talk about this potential double up between Wilson and Isak. Isak's right down in 16th when it comes to forwards. Still not bad. I mean, actually, not bad 90 of 0.51. He got a 2 bonus, didn't he, with just the assist as well in the last game. But I mean, look at Callum Wilson. He's only had 2 starts in 7, but he's 2 starts in, but he's scored 8 goals.
Yeah, I mean, part of that is obviously the fact that in the time that he's come onto the pitch, they have been absolutely desperate for a goal, or they've been banging for him, firing him in, and he's just sat in the penalty area. So that is without a doubt inflated. But we know that Callum Wilson's been a top tier striker in the Premier League whenever he's fit, pretty much for whatever team he's ever played for as well, in a roundabout way. So I have no qualms about that. I don't think there's any argument if they're both on the pitch together. You want Callum Wilson because he's the one in the middle. I also think he's probably on penalties over Isak. I mean, I think that's up for debate. Isak's definitely taken penalties, but they haven't been on the pitch together. So hard to know. Would Wilson's seniority trump it and he just say, I'm taking him? Or, I mean, do you have any view on that? I don't know which way it would go.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's tricky. I'd maybe say Isak. I don't know.
Or maybe even take turns depending on who won it or whatever. It's hard to guess, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really tricky. I mean, the next year, non-penalty 90 of 1.55 for Wilson, I think is the highest I've ever seen on this list. And I mean, it is because he's playing, few minutes and coming off the bench and, coming into teams when they're already 3-0 up. But that is crazily high. And, there are a lot of people talking about doubling up on Wilson and Isak. And I look at the striker spots. I mean, I've got Jota, for example. I mean, a few people have still got Tony hanging around, Kane, if you've kind of kept on with him. But I do think there is an opportunity to get them both in this week. I like
Definitely.
it. Yeah, I like it. I don't mind it at all. But it is funny to be buying 2 players from a team where you know only one of them is likely to start. It's like buying Alvarez and Haaland, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose, but I mean, you literally are playing the minutes lottery there, pretty much. Rather than risking, I've said this before, rather than risking a player who's not particularly good, but is going to play a double and have 180 minutes, you're risking players that are very good. And yes, their minutes are at risk, but you could be wrong. We could be wrong, and they could get more or something. Even if you get both of them, and one of them ends up with 2 points, the other ends up at 18, by having 2, you've given yourself the chance of getting the one that was correct, if that makes sense, as well. So I don't hate it at all. I'm not in a position to do it, I don't think, because just the way my team is set up, it would be quite difficult for me to do it. But if you are, positioned that way, I think having both in 36 is absolutely fine. That seems the minimum unless there's injuries. And I have to, with Wilson, you always have to be careful. You're looking at a start and a cameo for both of them on the information we've got. So that's probably your baseline. And you could get lucky and they might play both of the games the way it's going at the moment, or get even more minutes than that.
2 other Brighton players on this list we've got to mention, right up there in the top 5. Danny Welbeck, he's back. He is playing superbly. I love Danny Welbeck. He is playing absolutely superbly at the moment. XG non-penalty 1.07. And then Cisco, or Inciso, I can't even pronounce his name, our new kind of Paraguay. I want to say Paraguayan. I think I should definitely know that. And how
just go with South American.
South American, yeah, that's where we signed. That's where we signed all our players from. I'm pretty sure he's Paraguayan. 0.94. I mean, he's been absolutely electric since he's come into the side. 2 goals.
He is Paraguayan. I just googled it.
Good, got that right. 2 goals and 2 assists for him in just 2 starts. Looks likely to keep his place given how well he's been doing. I like both of those as options. Genuinely, with the doubles coming up, Ferguson is. Is if he does come back, he's going to be kind of nursed back into the side. I think there's going to be rotation there, but I think there's going to be rotation everywhere.
Really? Do you think there's going to be a lot more rotation? Because that is probably one of my questions, because I think it's a similar situation what we've been talking about. A lot of us have already got our triple Brighton. So to then try and worry about rotation and move to different options is quite difficult. If you haven't got them, again, I don't mind punting on, say, one of these. But it's quite hard when you know that you're probably going to need them in all the other game weeks and the other doubles, because you suddenly need that player to play, unless you're using transfers in or out and you've got them spare. It's kind of like the Mahrez situation, isn't it? Where you think, oh, we might be great for this week, but then I've got to worry about it next week and the week after. And that's how those players kind of strike me. It's like, I don't know. So therefore, I'm back to, I'm sat here with Mitoma, and then I've got March and I've got Estupinan. And I just think, well, hopefully they're going to play the vast majority. Like maybe a Stupinan misses one. I think maybe in the double game week, we've just seen now that it's possible he might rotate some of them and he can get away with it. But yeah, March, even though he didn't do anything, he did play, was it 55 minutes or whatever?
I still can't believe he got nothing from that game.
So
yeah.
I mean, he didn't do anything, did he? Really?
No,
not that I noticed anyway. But
I mean, we've got 4 forwards that could start. Undav, I'd kind of written him off, but he had a really, really good game against Wolves, and that little chip he scored was one of the goals of the season, I think, for us. I mean, we've proven that we can win without Matoma and McAllister, which I looked at that lineup, I thought we could be in trouble. In that, we've got Buonanotte knocking the back. We've got Gilmore complaining about a lack of minutes. There is a lot of different players that can come in and out of that side. So I don't think there's any at the moment that are that much stronger than anyone else.
I suppose, but then it's hard to balance, isn't it? Because Wolves were dreadful in that game. I know you were fantastic, but they were just ripped to pieces. And when you go 3 or 4 nil down,
they gave the ball away every 3 or 4 minutes. The goalkeeper, gave up three big chances from poor passes.
Yeah, holding on to the ball too long. I mean, he's a player that looked incredible when he first played. I think it was versus Spurs, maybe his debut, I was watching it on holiday, and he looked like he was class. And I think he is decent, but he held on to the ball far too long in certain areas and got pickpocketed. I mean, the point I'm getting at there is when you go 3 or 4 nil down so quickly, it's hard to judge the rest of that game, isn't it? Because the players' heads are down and everything. And I don't know whether we'd be as willing to use those players in certain other games and matchups, but maybe. I mean, he's obviously very strong-minded. Do you see he's ill today, by the way, or something? Might miss the game. Or
who's that?
The manager.
Is it Zerbi?
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, maybe someone will say in the chat.
I mean, to be fair, he's missed so many games because he keeps getting sent off. So it's not going to be a huge miss without him on the touchline. Now, the only reason I'm talking about these kind of other options is because we talk about these midfield spots being so precious, and I'm just wondering if you could go for a Welbeck or an Incisor or someone like that in forwards, that frees up that midfield spot to then take a punt on a Joe Linton or an Ericsson or someone, because I don't think there's a huge amount in it. I think Welbeck and Matoma, for example, could end up playing quite similar minutes between now and the end of the season.
Really? I really hope that's not the case. I was hoping Matoma was going to play the most. I'll go back to what I said, I think, the last time we did it. The areas to punt really are your fault. I mean, if you've got the option, it is that sort of almost third forward spot if you're playing 3, or the second forward spot. That's why we see a lot of people eyeing up Jota, Alvarez, all these other guys. And it's fair enough. So, is Alvarez or Jota any more nailed than some of the ones you'll mention? I guess not. So... Yeah, you kind of have fun with it, I suppose.
The comments about Matoma are interesting because De Zerbi came out and said, I want him to play 3 games in a week, but he's not able to. And if he wants to play for a top side or play with us in Europe next year, he needs to adapt. That's what he said. So it's implying that Matoma isn't ready to play all these games in quick succession. And we've got a lot of games coming up again.
Did he say exactly that? I thought he said something like...
That's exactly what he said.
Oh, okay. I didn't think he said like he can't, more that he needs to get used to it. But,
well, yeah, okay, maybe. It was. Then he benched him. It was implied that he was struggling to play three games.
Yeah, I did read it as if he's going to play him actually because this is what he needs to get used to, and then he benched him, which was probably a bit of a surprise. But I don't know. I think people may disagree with me, but and maybe you do as well. But I would have thought Matoma maybe misses one more, like Max.
I'm not saying sell Matoma. Don't get me wrong. I still think if I was to pick one Brighton asset, he's the one. But I think the other spots, assume we're going for a defender, I think that second midfielder spot could be a Welbeck or an Incisor if you wanted to free up that midfield spot.
Yeah. Is Incisor not a forward? He is, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. That's what I mean. Yeah. That's what I mean.
Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, there's some. I mean, realistically, we're probably not going to sell any Brighton assets and just keep them. But
I'm not doing it, and I think everyone's got 3, so it's kind of a moot point. But if you haven't, then
I'm just thinking if you're looking for things to do and be different, you need to be thinking about ways of which you can do it like that. Because you can't just be like, well, I'm going to keep my 5 midfielders and my 3 strikers and not take any risks. The risk there, I guess, is shopping out your Brighton players. Anyway,
Jordan says gross ?
Yeah,
I mean, that's fair, isn't it? Although he might be right back now. Veltman got injured, didn't he?
His role in the team, he could play so many different roles in that team. He's so versatile, and at the start of the season, he was playing in a much more attacking role. He's a really, really, really good player, but I wouldn't trust him.
Class goals.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I just that goal again. Talk about goal of the season. We had loads in that. That was an absolutely fantastic goal. I wouldn't put him in the same bracket as a lot of other players.
FPL Harry in the chat saying, if you were wildcarding as, which three would you have from Bryson?
I'm not giving Harry I'm not telling Harry what to do. He's like 200th in the world. You know, he doesn't need me clouding his judgment.
He'd only copy you anyway.
Oh God, that's what he does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Justice for Ali.
Yeah. Team Ali over here, mate.
Team Ali, yeah. I will answer. If I was going to go for three, I'd go for Matoma, I'd go for Estepinian, and I'd go for one of the forwards and free up the midfielder spot. I'd go for Welbeck, go for Danny.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I think I'd still have March, but
it's not because I think Welbeck is a better option than March, but he's allowing himself an extra midfielder. Yeah, that's the only reason. Yeah,
I get it.
That's the only reason. Right, let's go through some predictions. I've stuck a garden centre game on. I went for Fulham Leicester. Thoughts?
Oh, I can't even see the thing. I need to bring it up. Fulham Leicester. Yeah, do you know what? Maybe so. I was considering putting this quite low scoring, but I come back to the fact that Leicester couldn't defend, so then I ended up putting some goals in.
Yeah, I went for some goals. I think there's goals in all these matches. I think it's a really good looking weekend of football.
Yeah, you've gone for 2 clean sheets. I went for 1, and I actually had Everton to score down, and because I had no clean sheets, I changed it and thought I've got to give 1 for the week.
I can't see there being many clean sheets this week. I think it's a very exciting week. Bournemouth Chelsea, our first game. I've gone for a Bournemouth win, 3-2. Chelsea, you've gone for a 1-1. I mean, this is not a game where I would have thought at the start of the season we'd be going for a draw and a win for Bournemouth. But
no. I just think Bournemouth, as good as they have been a little bit lucky as well. And I think once they've come against like a half decent team, was it West Ham who battered them? They haven't looked as great. And yes, you can argue Chelsea are definitely not that. But they still have the players like on the pitch that are decent enough. So surely they get a shake-up at some point. A shake-up to the level where they might get a 1-1 draw away to Bournemouth. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because I've got Chilwell on my team. I just kind of want him to do something, and I just hope he scores the 1 goal. But yeah, to be honest, it's so hard to call.
The thing is, they've put in more good performances lately, Bournemouth, than they have bad ones. I mean, they had the really poor performance against West Ham, but around that, you know, they beat Leicester in that big relegation battle 1-0. They beat Spurs, where they were absolutely incredible at the Spurs
Both
stadium.
Those teams are dreadful, though.
They
as well,
are.
Aren't
So
they?
are Chelsea.
So that's why it's hard to judge.
So are Chelsea. Southampton, they beat, big relegation match, that one as well. And then Leeds. I mean, okay, these are all terrible teams, but Chelsea are in that bracket at the moment.
Yeah, no, you might be right. It's just because if we go back to the data that we showed, you know, the XGC and XG difference, you can see that Bournemouth are actually quite negative. You know, even post World Cup, and I know more of it's been more down to the manager coming in. They've been performing a bit better, but you just mentioned it there. The fixtures, those guys they've played, they are some of the best fixtures you can play right now, which makes it really hard to judge that game. So I suppose for me, it comes down to, can Chelsea turn things around? And we obviously both don't particularly think they can. Most people don't, but maybe at some point.
City Leeds. You know, City can only dream of having a manager like Allardyce in charge, but we've both gone for 4 goals for City in this one. You've given Leeds a goal. There's going to be some rotation in this. I mean, there's been rotation in this game. Grealish is the big minutes risk, I think, in this one, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I thought Foden would probably play tonight because he's been back for a while now and he hasn't had a start. So I thought Grealish would play. He was in my predictions. I had Mahrez to sit out, but Mahrez, I think, has started. I haven't had time to digest it because obviously I've been on here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I read out he started, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah, I think Foden starts versus Leeds instead of Grealish. I'll be fairly confident. I think he starts anyway. You know, maybe Grealish can play as well, but to continuously keep playing Grealish, you know, you're definitely going to need him. I mean, everyone probably thinks that Bernardo Silva and Grealish are the starting midfielders versus Real Madrid. Pep doesn't always rotate the game beforehand. You know, he does look at the travel thing. So the fact they go to Madrid and then they come back and then they play Everton, so they have to travel and then they're away to Everton, I believe, as well. I know it's quite close anyway, Everton. But yeah, there's an argument to say that he doesn't necessarily need to. We're getting all focused that he's definitely going to rest players before Real Madrid, but he's done quite a lot of that tonight, apparently. So maybe it's not quite as bad as we expect. But that's a very long way of saying I still expect Foden to play this game.
Yeah.
In some capacity, and probably at Grealish's expense.
Yeah, interesting. We both got Grealish, so it'll be interesting to see what we do with our teams with him in. Spurs Palace, I've gone for a Palace win, 3-1. You've gone for a 2-2. So again, it's another team, isn't it? A high-flying team in the kind of underdogs, in inverted quote marks, against a team which you would have thought would win this at the start of the season. But I think Palace are too good for Spurs at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, you go on current form, Palace should win quite comfortably. I don't know how many times Spurs can go into a game and just ship like 3 or 4 goals in the opening 5-10 minutes.
No.
So,
well, they've done it all season, so there's no reason why that should that trend should be any different. Wolves Villa, the derby between these two teams, again both in very different places at the moment. Although Wolves had started to pick up, and then it's been a bit rough going lately. I've just gone for a 2-0 Villa. You've gone for a 2-1, so both gone for a Villa win.
Yeah, Villa have not been great results-wise, but I think they've been a little bit unlucky. Like Watkins obviously stopped scoring, but the team's still designed that way, and Wolves just got a thumping. But I think that Wolves have kept like 9 clean sheets at home or whatever it is all season, so they're actually pretty good at home, defensively at least. So yeah, tricky one. I think it will be relatively low scoring. I mean, it went 2-1, and that is compared to some of the other games quite low scoring this week. But...
Yep, high scoring one next, Liverpool Brentford. I've gone for a 3-2 Brentford. You've gone for a 3-2 Liverpool. The only reason I've gone for that is 2 very, high pressing teams, but Liverpool have had a lot of games. I just think they might. The freshness of Brentford might see them through.
Okay. Any argument that Brentford are on the beach, like people say, not much to play for?
Well, as we've said, you
could argue Liverpool's the same.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I think Frank will do a good job in keeping them motivated. I mean, they're still winning with a slim hope of Europe, aren't they? If they get 7th?
Yeah. I think even Liverpool can technically still do it, can't they?
Well, Liverpool should get 5th pretty comfortably. I don't think they can get Champions League.
No, probably not. But I've just gone for Liverpool win because it's at Anfield, and Liverpool generally win at Anfield. Brentford are definitely one of the teams that can upset anyone at any random point, though. And I think there will be goals in it. Yeah. Yep.
Newcastle Arsenal. We've both gone for a Newcastle win here. That's it then. That's the title done. Newcastle win that. It's over. What a horrible game for Arsenal to have to play with just like four games left. It doesn't get much worse, does it?
No, I kind of want Arsenal to win just to make the title race even more interesting. But Newcastle's stats, in particular at home, are just so good. So I don't know, maybe you could argue the mentality will come into it. Can Newcastle handle it, and Arsenal's pressure and all that stuff? That's way out of my remit. That's where we need the Graham Souness's of this world to chip in with that sort of stuff. But I don't know. On the stats, at least, Newcastle appear to be the better team. I think it will definitely be close. But it's hard to write Arsenal off in any game. Just every time I watch them, I still think they're great.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. West Ham United. I've gone for a 2-1 West Ham. You've gone for a comfortable United win of 3-1. Not really any basis for this. I think there's still a couple of shocks left, and I'm looking at the relegation spot and just thinking, what teams are going to kind of spring a surprise. And I think West Ham just probably need one win. They've got Leeds and Leicester in the next. So if they beat United, then I think they're pretty much safe.
I've just gone down the road of their focus is kind of elsewhere, and they will pick up those points. And I think someone just put in the chat there, Kufal is slower than my grandma. Rashford will eat him alive. It's a very good point. They have to play him. But yeah, playing Rashford in that pocket. I think Man United. Bruno Fernandes, the way he's playing at the moment, I'm terrified of not having him. I just think, such is my luck. That's probably why I've put it, that Bruno Fernandes will just start smashing the goals and assisting, and that's why I've gone high on that stuff.
A hat trick for Bruno. That if that happens, Mark could catch me up. Actually, that'd be an absolute disaster. Fulham Leicester. I've gone for 2-1 Fulham. You've gone for 2-1 Leicester. Opposite ways.
Yeah,
but Garden Centre.
Feels Garden Centre. There'll be pressure on Leicester, won't there? But yeah, apart from that, pretty much Garden Centre.
And then Brighton Everton. You've gone for a 4-0 Brighton. I've gone for a 2-0. More conservative.
See, this is interesting for me, right? If Everton are going to play that relatively high line that they've been playing of late, I don't know whether they're just going to stop versus this Brighton team. And Everton try to press. They try to press a lot. and
Yeah,
they play.
they shouldn't try that against us.
If they play like that,
Yeah,
because that is exactly what Brighton are set up to do, right? To invite the press as high up the pitch as
and
they
then
can,
counter big
and
time.
then counter.
Surely
I wanted to
Deitch.
put like 8-0 down here,
Yeah,
genuinely.
I mean
But
Deitch can't set him up like that. He can't. We
well,
are
that's what I think. Surely he realizes that, and he doesn't play that game plan. So that's why I ended up going, oh, okay, I'll go for the
we
balance
we we
four.
we struggle a lot in teams where teams pack the penalty area. You know, we struggled against
I guess
Forest.
that's what he's going to do,
We struggled
rather than
against
that.
we've done against Forest both times when they've done that. He has to do that. I would be surprised to see him go like 5 at the back and just stick everyone back, because
Maybe.
if he tries to play like a 4-4-2 high press high line, we will kill them.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So I suppose he's probably not going to, but he has done it in games I wouldn't have expected him to do it so far this season. And
No.
they've got Calvert-Lewin back, and they've just scored a goal, and maybe I don't know. The way Everton approach this game is going to make all the difference, basically.
Agreed. And then the final game, Mark's biggest game of the season, Forest versus Southampton. Forest have just thrown away, at least a point against Brentford. This is it. If they win this game, they've got a chance of staying up. If they lose it or draw it, they're done. I can't see. You talk about cup finals, all that rubbish that these commentators go on about, but it is really, isn't it? This one, like, this is the biggest game, their biggest game of the season, and it's going to determine whether they have a chance of staying up or not.
Southampton are one of the hardest teams in the league, I think, to predict like what will happen in the game, because they're just generally dreadful, but then they'll just turn up and manage to score goals.
Yeah, they'll score, and Forest have not got a particularly good attacking threat at the moment. I'll take away that Brighton game when we just completely fell apart, but they are struggling. They're going to need 2.
Yeah, you just wonder, like, I know Southampton are down, aren't they? Does that have an impact?
I think Forest win it. Come on,
I mean, that's what I've gone for. I hope they do.
We've got some faith in Mark. Captain Matrix. This is a bit depressing. It's probably going to be Haaland for 3 out of the 4 games. I mean, we could talk about rotation with City in Gameweek 35, but going against Haaland versus Leeds, the fact it's Leeds as well, and he's got that kind of romanticism with them. And I look at some of the other teams as well. I mean, Rashford v West Ham, we could go for one of the Brighton players at home to Everton, Salah Brentford. None of them are particularly great options. That Haaland v Leeds match is just too good.
No, I suppose if he's starting, then you're probably going to have to captain him. The thing is, we know pretty much from experience that if he does start that game, and they're doing well, he's probably going to come off early, and it still won't stop us doing it. I wouldn't have thought.
There is a chance we get team news ahead of that, because it's 3:00 on Saturday. If he's benched, I won't captain him.
No, of course not. But I'll add, I think the chances have increased of that slightly. I was pretty confident before this double that Haaland would start this game, but the way the De Bruyne injury has fallen, the fact that Alvarez he has played both these games, hasn't he? We're about 2 minutes from kickoff. He's about to play both of them. So if De Bruyne is back and fit enough, you would have thought, given knowing Pep, he would want to give him a little bit of rhythm in his legs. He wouldn't just want to throw him straight into Real Madrid off injury. He'd want to give him some minutes. That doesn't necessarily mean from the start, but let's say he puts him in for the start versus Leeds as a result and then takes him off. That suddenly leaves only one spot for Haaland and Alvarez to bat it out.
Yep.
And then maybe you give Haaland his rest in this game. I mean, I don't think he'll do that, but I think it's become more possible now than it was before this Kevin De Bruyne injury.
Yeah.
So we're pretty much relying on news. Otherwise, we're all just going to have the armband on him regardless, aren't we? I think
it'd be nice to have a week where we take it, because I mean, in Game Week 36, we're going to probably go for one of the Brighton or Newcastle boys, but then it's another double for City in 37, where it's going to be hard to go against him. And then in 38, I mean, we could do like a kind of Hail Mary for someone else, but realistically, he's going to be trying to push whatever record he's going for, or try and hit as many goals as he can in the league, so no one else can break that record. So it'd be difficult to back against him for that.
I think in 37 you can argue Rashford, right? I think if you think Haaland does get any reduced minutes, Rashford playing home to Chelsea, which looks a great fixture at the moment, and then Bournemouth,
true,
is better than playing Brighton. I think Pep will have massive, he's talked up about De Zerbi the whole time, and the respect he's got for him. They'll have a proper team and a proper plan for that game, I would have thought. But then you've just got the home Chelsea game where Haaland could score like 7 goals or whatever. So I think Rashford's at least an option in 37. I'll put it that way. But and in 36, obviously, like you said, you've got the doubles for Newcastle. But other than that,
I still have nightmares about Haaland versus Dunk, Luke. So I wouldn't read too much into it. Haaland just absolutely turned him and smashed it in, and barely looked troubled. So I don't think it's a problem that I don't think Haaland's going to have a problem against our backline. But yeah, you're probably right. It probably is between Haaland and Rashford. Looking at some captain's data, again, looking at season, looking at the last 6 game weeks, Haaland is top of both. I don't think we need to go too much into it. I think it's going to be a very brave manager that goes against him this week, unless we get the news. Leeds also over the last 6 game weeks, they have the highest XG non-penalty conceded on per 90 of all teams. Everton in second though, and Everton are worst over the season out of the teams we've selected. Everton, Leeds, Wolves, Brentford, Palace, West Ham and Newcastle. So there is a case for Brighton, but there's no player that dominates like Haaland does. So yeah, easy Haaland pick, assuming he starts.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at our teams. So this is my team on the screen. It's De Gea in goal with Trent, Dunk, Moreno, Salah, Rashford, Grealish, Matoma, Haaland, Jota, and Watkins. I benched March. I think I could swap March in for Grealish because I think you're probably right. Now I've seen him start tonight. I think reduced minutes is definitely on the cards for Grealish. So I might bring March in for Grealish. Benching Trippier, benching my old mate Porro as well. Have to see what happens with Jota too. Be nice if he could get a start. I mean, he's been benched in these 2, so if he comes on again and he doesn't aggravate his back again, there's maybe a chance that he starts against Brentford. So yeah, no transfer for me. Just working out who to bench really.
Yeah, the Grealish March one is the same thing. I'll have as well. That could go badly wrong either way, couldn't it?
Oh, you've got him benched. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got him benched at the moment. That's just because I don't expect him to start. But if there's news that he does start or I change my opinion, benching a Man City attacker home to Leeds just scares the life out of me. So what I'd probably do in that situation is actually bench Isak, because I don't even know for sure that he would play, and it's a tougher fixture, which also doesn't feel great. But I kind of want March.
Yeah, I don't like benching Isak.
Well, it's tough, isn't it?
They are going to be a raucous crowd at St James's Park with They'd love to stop Arsenal.
Well, if Gabriel's out as well.
Yeah, that's it. I know. What is it? Could be Holding and Kiwi. Kiwi or?
Yeah.
Kiwi. I like that.
Yeah, it doesn't. Sometimes, as we just said with Man United, it doesn't. Players do make a difference, but sometimes they don't make as big a difference as we might anticipate. With having Luke Shaw playing centre back and stuff like that. So. Yeah, it's very easy to get hung up on the fact that they've got those 2 players out, so it's just an auto win. But going back to your team very briefly, I know you just switched off. Moreno over Porro? Surely you play Porro.
I'm not playing Porro.
You're not playing Porro?
No, I've got Palace to score 3 goals in that game. I can't be relying on Porro. I think Villa win that game to 0, and I think Moreno's got good attacking threat. So
okay. All right. I just think neither team get a clean sheet probably, and then Porro just.
My worry with Moreno is Dean. I think Dean could come in for this one.
Okay, well that adds that weight to doing Porro.
I'm not playing Porro.
Okay,
Porro's just a cheerleader in the team. I'm planning on losing him pretty rapidly if I can find some money to upgrade him. He was a bad buy. He was a luxury buy on the wild card. Your team, just for the podcast listeners, is double Chelsea defence. What can go wrong? Kepa and Chilwell, Trent, Estepinian, Salah, Rashford, Matoma, March, Isak, Haaland, and Watkins. Looks good. No chance I'm catching you this year. Black Box Leagues. Just a quick mention to Ali, who is still top. 2,448. He is still number 1 in the world. Let me just confirm that. I think he is. He
went for De Bruyne, bless him.
Number 1 in the world. He is. Yeah, he went for De Bruyne. Yeah, he's 2 points going into this game ahead of Ivan Capco. So yeah, he's got Grealish, and Ali doesn't. So yeah, big week for him. Maybe there'll be a change. He wildcarded this week, Ali. As well, but still in a great place to go on. And we'll root you, Ali, because he is only in the Black Box League. I think he was in Mates and Andy's, but he has chosen his loyalties. And I would urge anyone else to do the same. Pick your team.
Is that what's going on? Is this the battle going on?
If you're team Black Box, then we don't want you in the house. We don't really care. You can do what you want. But yeah, I'll update this again next week when there's a bit less carnage going on with all the weeks. A final shout out to Gameweek 39. which is being held after Gameweek 38, surprisingly, in Birmingham, Saturday the 3rd of June. I will be playing in that. We're trying to raise money for a great cause in Street Child United. If you don't know what Gameweek 39 is, check out the website. There's a link in the description below. But essentially, it's a load of fantasy football managers competing in a real-world football game, 11 aside. And it's a great laugh up in Birmingham, great night out. And yeah, as I said, trying to raise money for Street Child United. So do check us out and donate anything that you can spare, because we'd really appreciate it. Luke, that is it for us this week. It's 6 minutes past 8. Go and enjoy the football. It's been great, as always, talking to you. And yeah, we will be back next week.
Thanks a lot, mate. It's been great. I love doing it, and I shall see you next week. And I really hope Grealish scores some points. See you later, guys.
God, so do I. We need some Grealish points, because he's definitely getting benched at the weekend. Thanks everyone. Enjoy the football. Good luck, and we'll see you soon.